me. But curious your opinion about this. We both share the opinion that Texas is on the rise. Like this is a coaching staff and a situation, given everything in college football right now, their situation is going to be great. But as far as maybe the immediate future, given all the guys they're losing, then having to replace that, and that they built this team up over a couple years, building that chemistry together, did they maybe miss their window because it's about to get more difficult having to win just more than one game to get to the national championship game?
No, I don't think they missed their window at all. I think that as far as the availability of that window to remain open, that's all there. Now they have to make the moves to ensure that remains the case and that remains open. But I think they're pretty well set up to be right where they are, if not even better than they are right now moving forward. I mean, they're about to join the SEC, and I understand on the one hand you can say, well, that means it's going to be tougher, but there's an expanded playoff. So are they going to get more love as a Big 12 team or as an SEC team in the expanded playoff if they finish fourth in the conference?
That's true.
So if all you're trying to do is just get into the playoff and give yourself a chance, they're going to have a better opportunity, you would think, or as equal of an opportunity. I guess some could argue, no, it'd be easier in the Big 12, but that's not what they're looking to do. They're looking to make more money than they already have, and they already have more money than just about everybody. So with the expanded if the playoff wasn't expanding, I'd say that they'd be in pretty good shape as being a perennial Big 12 contender. I know that's not really saying a whole lot there, but like them and Oklahoma kind of trading off, and then every once in a while your TCU, your Oklahoma State, your Baylor, whoever jumps up, and the new schools. But given they're going to the SEC and just the love for that conference, that we know the bias that is there amongst the higher ups, I don't think that's going to be too much of a lower percentage than had things sort of remained as is. So I think they're set up well in that regard to be a regular contender in the playoff. But in the eyes of fans and the eyes of administration, like, what's the expectation? Is that like, hey, you better make it like every other year, bare minimum, or if you don't make it for a couple of years, is the sky falling? Like, those are the types of things we don't really know all that well just yet. And obviously circumstances and details will matter as well. But they've got more money than anybody. They're recruiting as well as anybody. They've got a head coach that's actually sturdy and seems like he's going to be around for a little while and isn't anybody that you're really all that concerned about. Now, you may have some questions after the other night of like, I wish he did this better, or I wish this changed or whatever. But for the most part, this is the best coach you've had since Mack Brown. You just won the Big 12 championship, and you're hitting on all cylinders, really. The only thing that's derailed this ride was just losing the other night in a game that could have been far worse, but yet you were sitting there with the ball and a fresh set of downs in the red zone just outside the 10-yard line, chunking it at the end zone with an opportunity to win the game and go to the national championship. So, things seem pretty good to me for them right now. And now you're going to get your NFL mojo back because – and maybe that's already sort of started with Bijan, last year in the first round. And I know they haven't been as dire as it was a few years ago when, again, we were making fun of we being everybody, making fun of the fact they had no draft picks there at one point in time. But that's over with. They're now going to be supplying first-rounders what would seem like on a regular basis and having as much money and as prestige and history as they have, and now that SEC banner with them as well, they're going to be as strong as anybody when it comes to the transfer portal. So, you lose Xavier Worthy and Byron Murphy and all those guys. I understand that's not just you go to the portal and you fix all that, or you just recruit and you fix all that automatically, and it's not like you didn't miss a beat or anything. But I don't know. I don't see where there's like room for all that much concern, honestly. I think the only thing you're really concerned about is like, oh, shoot, what if we go in this new league and we're not quite ready and we have like 4 losses and then we can't manage to find our way to the type of run they had this past year. But I'm optimistic about their future. I think that I do think, to your point, you do wonder about the missed opportunity, but I don't look at it from like, oh, but we're never going to get back here. No, I just look at it from I think they'll regularly get back there to where they got to. Getting over that hill is another story, though. And what that looks like in an expanded playoff, how difficult that is. Like, we don't really know. But I do think for this team and that opportunity they had the other night, no matter what happens in the future, you're going to look back on that and go like, damn, we missed a really golden opportunity that was basically handed to us by Kalen DeBoer to go and steal that game away and go play for a national title. And who knows how they would have matched up with Michigan. But, yeah, that's one that's going to sting for a while. And it's going to sting because of just what happened late. There were fans leaving that game early. Like, there were fans that were leaving the Sugar Bowl thinking Washington's won this game, and then they flub, the time and the clock, and the decisions were just very curious on the part of Washington, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, Texas has a chance, and it's almost worse that you got your hopes back up there at the end, right? Rather than just getting beat and moving on, you got your hopes back up, and you end up sitting there, throwing a pass to Adonai Mitchell there to finish the game out. So I think that game in particular stings, Paul, but I don't think there's any concern about, like, you missed the 2023 window for sure, but I don't think you missed, like, the big open window moving forward.
No,
yeah.
I don't think, like, TCU maybe missed their shot.
Yes, TCU missed a window.
Missed their shot. I just think that as far as, like, Texas to get one, like, before the SEC, before it gets harder, before the 12-team playoff, to, like, build that momentum, like, that's the little window they missed. Yeah. But, like, as far as big picture stuff, I think they're going to be fine.
Because here's the thing, TCU to go and get back to where they were a couple years ago is going to be not impossible, but pretty close to that. I mean, because now you're looking at, all right, cool, you beat Michigan in a semifinal, and we know how that game went. They could have lost that game, but they won it, to their credit, and they got there, and then we saw what happened against Georgia. But, okay, you did that. But now add in a couple of games before you even get to that Michigan game. So that's what you're going to have to do now, and that's where, like, the transfer portal and all this stuff that slants towards the bigger schools. I mean, what smaller school is going to be able to go win 4 playoff games and win a national title? I mean, think about that. You're going to have to
be really special.
You're going to have to be really special. You're going to have injuries on the other teams. It's going to have to line up to where you get, like, a great first-round draw, and then you get a pretty even team in the second round, and then maybe you have an upset in the or you know what I mean? It's like, it's going to be really hard to see a path where a team like TCU is able to do what they did, because now you're adding at least one more, if not a couple more games to what you would take to get there. And I just don't know that every program or most programs are going to be able to still be built close enough to be able to do that. You know what I mean? Whereas I think with Texas, yeah, they are built to where they could go win with their roster and their resources, go win 3 or 4 playoff games and win a national title, because they're going to be deep and super talented. But you're like your TCU from 2 years ago. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know if that team can go reel off 3 playoff wins, or at least 2 of them, against stellar competition, and then go and get back to the national title. That's the thing that's going to be really hard to see.
I would think that one thing I do think that is going to happen in the 12-team playoff is you're not going to see the same team win it a bunch of years in a row, because of that. It will be more like professional sports, where you're going to have teams that'll be good, like, for a long time.
Right, yeah.
They'll have decade-long runs of being, regular playoff teams, but they're not going to be, blocking it out like Alabama did, because as we saw this year, the portal hurts everybody. It helps and hurts. Like, so where Alabama, couldn't do some of the things they wanted to, like, be dominant Alabama all the time this year, is that they just didn't have the depth that they had before, where they just kept coming at you in waves. And, this was, one of Nick Saban's better coaching jobs. So I think that's gonna hurt, especially, like, as the leagues get bigger. And then you have maybe teams also. I think the other thing that's going to happen is you look at a team like Ole Miss, right? A team that now the leagues are getting bigger. They're part of that bigger league. And they decided, like, okay, well, these are the circumstances that maybe we can now, cut to the front of the line, as where we couldn't do it before, at Ole Miss, because money talks a lot more than other things have. So, but to your other point, the haves and the have-nots are going to get further apart when it's decided how you're going to allocate those resources. So, or what resources you have to allocate. That's the other thing, is that you've got 2 conferences that are going to have way more resources coming in to allocate over a long period of time. And, like, while in the short term we may not see those effects right away, after 5 years of these 2 leagues making $40 million more than everybody else, yeah, they're going to have money in the kitty to do things.
Yeah, and that's why